And the United Kingdom Foreign Office says the first British nationals have been able to leave Gaza today, crossing to safety in Egypt. They're among hundreds of people with foreign passports and dozens of injured Palestinians in Gaza who have been allowed to leave the territory through the Rafah crossing, which was shut when the war between Israel and Hamas erupted just over 3 weeks ago. The UK Foreign Office says the crossings are expected to take place over a number of days. And the United Nations has been speaking of frustrations around the effort to supply aid to persons badly affected by the war in Gaza. The UN insists supplies that ought to get to area highly in need of aid are being hindered by air and ground attacks. The world bodies say Israel's repeated attack on the Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza is now tending towards war crimes. Global Affairs analyst Ejike Okpa joins me live from Dallas in Texas on the World Now today. Thank you for joining us this hour. What do you make of the new developments? We understand about 400 people were able to leave Gaza through the Rafah crossing yesterday.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. 400 people compared to how many people that would like to leave. But, it's just another contradiction in the West. And everybody supporting Israel and everybody sympathizing with the Palestinians as to the millions, of people that want to have peace and live happily in their own area. So 400 people is that a cause for celebration? When on a daily basis, if you do the daily calculation from October 7th, so less than a month now, 10,000 people have died. Assuming that number is no more. And, we're not even talking about people that have been wounded. My thing is, can this thing end? Can we have a ceasefire? Okay, they're talking about, there's going to be a war crime charge against Israel, but, that's not going to happen. Netanyahu is now going to ever appear before the court in Hague. So, again, it's just one of those chicken and egg situation, that we see that has existed in that part of the region.
So you also heard from the United Nations warning that Israel's continued attack on a particular camp is now nearing war crimes. So what are the odds against Israel here if the UN continues to make such bold statements?
Well, like I said, they say nearing. It's already there. This is how we all see it. I'm hoping that, Netanyahu will be able to be arrested or, a warrant for his arrest issued by UN so that if he steps out of, Israel to any country and he can be grabbed, just like they did Charles Taylor of Liberia and try him. Maybe that will persuade him and his leadership to take a second look and then come to terms and how do we address this issue. Yes, the Palestinians, fired the first, volley of a bomb and then Israel retaliates. But, nobody's talking about what led to the Palestinians doing that. Everybody now seeing the action of the Palestinians and the Israeli reaction is now what is causing a whole lot of world concern.
But whether reaction or not, you can't excuse away the killing of 1,400 people and how Israel too has had to react. But you also heard from the U.S. recently saying there might be need for ceasefire if Israel will be able to get some foreign nationals out of the Gaza Strip. What are the chances that Israel might not be getting as much support from the U.S. with the humanitarian crisis that we're seeing by the day?
Well, U.S. is Israel's biggest support, and then of course you have sympathizing nations that don't want to offend America, and so they're gonna, reluctantly, or sheepishly, align on the side of the U.S. to support Israel. But everybody's shaking their head and said, what can we do? If U.S. were to come up today and say, hey, we're going to pull our support for Israel, guess what? there may be something that will happen positive. But it's an election year. We have a presidential election coming up next year. So, President Biden is not going to be able to say that because you have a very strong Jewish community in America who use the media as well as their monetary power to influence things. So nobody's going to say that. They're just going to tiptoe around the issue and hoping that somehow, there's going to be a ceasefire and it's going to, stop, and then maybe life can go on. But 10,000 or so people that have died, their life is not coming back. Then they're going to now turn around and how do you rebuild, you know, uh, Gaza that's been destroyed. I mean, you see those images on a daily basis. It's going to take some years to rebuild, that sort of physical destruction. And then, of course, what it's talking about the psychological affliction, that the people are suffering.
A few windows of opportunities have opened in the course of this conflict. One of which is Israel saying, release everyone that you've kidnapped or that you've abducted or that you call a prisoner of war. Are you surprised not many international communities are paying attention to that? The UN refused to mention Hamas in its resolution. And it seems that we are shying away from the fact that Hamas is a strong force here willing to fight as well, save for the civilian casualties we've recorded.
Well, again, you look at Israel as an organized country, with an organized military. Hamas is, freedom fighters that are now being labeled as terrorists. So they're going to use the ACE card that they have, and that ACE card is those people they have kidnapped. They said, okay, fine, we are holding these people. You do this for us, we release these people. It's always the case in any war, whether it is war with two former countries or war with formalized military and that of those fighting for freedom. So, America, there are Americans that have been held, but those Americans could be of Jewish ancestry. And so it goes back and forth. Iran, everybody uses a hostage situation to negotiate something. So Hamas doing it, they are not the first. They're just, trying to see what ace card they have, they're going to play, and they're playing it and they're holding tight. So, again, I wish this, I don't wake up every day or any day and just see this thing. We see it on a daily basis. Our news coverage is, 40-50% about Israel and this what is going on. And so it's a terrible world, and I don't know what would make the world be a peaceful one.
So I think it was yesterday or the day before Hamas claimed that 7 of the hostages have been killed in one of Israel's airstrike. Given the character of both nations, do you think that releasing the hostages will bring an end to this war? And if Israel retreats from fighting, it will resolve the challenge it has with Hamas?
Well, Hamas is said, fine, you release the Palestinian prisoners that are held in Israel and we'll release, the hostages. I mean, again, that's part of the war thing. Everybody, throws up what they think is their S card and then see who is going to yield or who is going to give in. It is the nature of geopolitics, and it's the nature of, a weaker side fighting a stronger side. If there was a formalized military, then it would be a different story. But this is a formalized military fighting, a group of people that are just fighting for freedom. And what these hostages are probably being hidden in areas that when the bomb fall, it's gonna kill them. And so we don't know where they are, and it tells you that with all the technology and that Israel has, they haven't been able to pinpoint where these people are because it's a human nature thing. They're fighting because they believe they are being oppressed in their own homeland, and they're going to do whatever they can or they have within their resources in order to put up a resistance. So my thing is the U.S. has a significant role to play in this. If the U.S. were to make a statement, about certain things, I think you will see a gradual end to this conflict. But the U.S. is going to be very reluctant because, you have, a strong Israeli presence in America that tended to, get into the geopolitics between the Palestinians and Israelis.
Conflict can be so difficult, it escapes the wisdom of the whole world. We're looking forward to how this will be resolved in the coming days. Ejike Okpa, he is a global affairs analyst and he joins us live from Texas in the United States. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.